The essence of step 7, others. Let's jump in. Welcome again to another episode of the 1% in Recovery podcast, where we are laughing every day, working hard in recovery, working hard in relationships, working hard in your job, business, school, just work. And to love unconditionally. Just put much more love out there and watch much more love return. Why? Recovery is beautiful. Your EQ is your IQ, and you cannot outthink an emotional issue. Now, what we are encouraging people to do is to download the Recovery Growth Scorecard. This is how you build life-sustaining recovery. Day in, day out, you are building up oxytocin, endorphins, serotonin, dopamine. You are doing the things that you need to do to keep moving forward, which leads into your schedule, which leads into talking to your subconscious, which leads into your goals and dreams. This is how you stay motivated for 28 years, as well as 25 years for yours truly. We're talking about alcohol or gambling, and really getting you to the foundation. The link is in the show notes. Just go to the website, lifeiswonderful.love, Love. Now, let's jump into this week's episode. As we know, we are talking about the essence of the steps. What is really each step about? Everyone wants to believe it was what they've heard in 12-step meetings. And there's some good information there. But ultimately, people struggle. And they shouldn't struggle because it's not explained the way it should be explained. Step 7 is about others. That is the essence. You start thinking outside of yourself. When I rewrote the 12 steps into the 12 steps explained, I said that step 7 is the turning point, which is true. Now let's go think about the first 3 essence of the steps. Now the first 6 are inward looking. They're all about you. Steps 7 through 12 is about outside of you. What is going on outside of you? Because recovery is about the inside and the outside self. So when I talk about the true essence of step 1, it is about change. You have to change something in your life. Otherwise, you're going to go nowhere. And the only way you truly change is when you jump into step 2 is that you feel safe, and then you go into step 3 and you accept whatever needs to be done. Which then, of course, you start then, okay, well, I got to then now do more work. And that's why the essence of step 4 is investigation. You've got to just really get into that. Step 5, of course, is about healing. If you're not healing, you're not truly growing. And then, of course, we talk about, the essence of step 7, is about, character. It's about growth. It's about finally building that foundation of who you truly are, which leads us to step 7. Why is step 7 about others? Is because truly, now the way the original step was written is we humbly ask God to remove these shortcomings. Like I said, you can't remove defects. What you can do is you can improve upon good character behaviors, good character traits, excellent spiritual principles. That's how you ultimately remove things, by acting better, doing the next right thing. So when we ask God, what you're truly doing is you are humbly. Now, when we say humbly I don't know why people struggle. And it took me years to really get this. But I went back to childhood. My mother was really good in the beginning when I was a small child, that before we got into bed, we got on our knees on the side of our bed and we prayed before we jumped into bed. We would always say a Hail Mary in Spanish. So my thing is that I've got to get on my knees every day in the morning. What better way to start your day than being in gratitude, thanking my higher power, thanking God, thanking the great mystery for number one, life, that I'm able to have life. And the number two best thing is relationships, because that's what 7 and these other steps are about, is how we deal with others. So we've got to appreciate others. And then of course we got to just appreciate our own, we've all been given gifts and talents, and we've also been given the ability to work. So get your ass, start working, doing something productive. That is how you get the most out of life. Everyone always goes, oh, I want to be retired. I want to have all this fun. I want to have all this money. Well, your life's going to be unfulfilling. If you're working on something, whether that's, and it should be on all of it, working on your mind, your body, your spiritual life, your business, your money, your career, relationships, you got to just be working, taking care of your home, your car, anything. That is work. You've got to really do all that necessary work. And that is where we humbly, but you got to get on your knees. So knees, when I talk about getting on your knees, it's the work. Everyone wants to do this passive ass prayer like I did for a number of years in between small child until my early 50s. Spending a good 35 plus years just, praying either while I was laying in bed or behind the steering wheel or in meetings. And I have to work. Just like I can't just, do a little bit of stretching in bed. No, I got to get out of the bed to actually stretch and actually, be flexible and then actually work out. You got to be much more proactive in things. And so I firmly believe that if you get on your knees, you are humbly asking. I don't know what this big deal is about, why it's so hard for people to get on their knees. Knees is a sign of respect. It's me respecting my higher power, respecting God, and just saying, hey, thank you. Is it really that hard to say thank you for having life? And then having the ability, like we say, we have 24 hours to do the best we can. So really, step 7 is truly about then starting to think, okay, what we need to do for others. How can we be there for our spouse, for our committed partner, for our parents, our siblings, our kids, our cousins, our friends, our clients, anybody that we work with? How can we really elevate their life? How can we make their life better? That's how we start thinking. Because if you really let's just look at the original 12 steps, because a lot of people like to constantly go back to them. And, like I said, there's a lot of good information there. In the beginning, you were talking about, you got to admit that, hey, you got a problem. You got to start talking 2 and 3 about, I've come to believe and I'm going to turn my will. It's a lot of this inward stuff. It's talking about what type of higher power is working within you. First, I got to identify, okay, I got to do something different. Then you got to start talking about that higher power. And it leads us into the way the original steps are 4, 5, and 6. You're talking about, making an inventory, making a list, putting that on paper, then actually going to a sponsor, a therapist, someone, it could be a recovery coach, someone, and you got to unload, you got to get that stuff out of your body. You got to say whatever happened, all that stuff. And then of course in 6, which I don't like, is, you got to list your character defects. The way I say it is you got to list your character traits on who you're trying to become. And now 7, 8, and 9 is truly about, number 1, if we're humble enough to go before our higher power and say, okay, I got to start making stuff right. I got to take care of my shit. I got to take care of my side of the street. I got to move it forward. So we start making because then 8 and 9, we make a list of, who we offended, who we hurt. 9, obviously going in front of them. And we'll get into those essence. And then step 10 is truly, how can we constantly be there? How can we wake up every day and go, how am I going to bring harmony to my world? How am I going to make my world better? That is always thinking about others. Maybe it's a small thing about opening the door of a stranger as you're entering some type of store. whether it's some type of smile or compliment, something other bigger, something that means to you. And then we go into 11 and 12, those truly about others. A lot of people think 11's about, improving your conscious contact. It's improving your conscious contact with a higher power so you can be of greater service to others. And then 12 is actually carrying the message by being a miracle of recovery, B, saying that you actually did emotional work, you actually did the work, so then people don't have to be scared that you're going to be, number one, unreliable, number two, act immature, number three, just be really insecure and defensive when someone says something about you. So we got to eliminate that. So we keep coming back. Step 7, I keep saying, step 7 is this turning point. A lot of people kind of even can get to this point and just stop. You've got to realize step 7 is a beautiful step. And there's much more to it than just being humble. But it's really starting to really change your mindset into becoming this bigger person and thinking of others and doing all these wonderful things for others. So I encourage people, work step 7, understand the essence of 7 is others. You start thinking of others, and then we're going to jump in. We're going to start moving fast with the essence of 8 and 9 here next week. With that, we're going to conclude this episode of the 1% in Recovery podcast.